being able to have that connection with the architect and the builder is really important. Not only do we want all of us to thrive, but we want our client to have the best experience and to have the amazing project that they can live the rest of their life in.
Well, very excited for the podcast today. We have Emily Marek. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. I'm excited to have you on. I know that I only know you as Emmy, which we'll get to, but today we're very formal, and you're the owner and principal designer at Emmy Couture, and we've had some amazing projects. I know you've been on Luann Nigara's podcast, so you're a seasoned pro, and so the funny thing, I was teasing you before we got on.
Brad.
I'm like, I only know you as Emmy, and of course Emmy Couture. So.
There's actually a backstory of that. Yeah, obviously it's Emily is my real name, but I go by Emmy, hence the business name Emmy Couture. But it actually started back in high school. I actually created Emmy Couture in my senior year in art class. I painted this painting, which I still have. It's actually in my attic. I need to get it. And it says Emmy Couture. But I also started going by it in college because in design school, there was 5 Emilys in my class, believe it or not.
Wow.
And there was 2 Emily M's because my maiden name is McDowell. So there was 2 Emily M's. So instead of going by Emily M, Emily L, Emily P, I just said, go by Emmy. And so none of the other Emily's went by Emmy. So it just kind of stuck. And then everyone in the industry knows me as Emmy. So.
No, it's kind of fancy. I mean, Emmy Couture, it just sounds like very refined and elegant. So like it fits the design, aspect.
Always, yes. And that's kind of reflecting of what the business is too.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, and real quick, if you already have that drawing that's in your attic, that should be like front and center in your office. Like
I need to frame it. Like literally, I need to get it down. Like me and Victoria were talking about, I need to do like a little video about it and hold it up because it's literally needs to be framed.
So one of, I think, or what I think is one of your incredible strong suits, and, I've networked and been around a lot of, entrepreneurs and professionals, designers, architects. I would say, I don't think I know anyone that builds a relationship with their client like you. And even from like the beginning, like we have a mutual client right now that we're just getting started, and you are traveling with them, doing weekend activities, going to dinner, families integrated. Would you, how is that so natural? I know you just went to Europe with one of our clients, and you were just in, Paris with them. How has that been? I don't want to say easy, but such a priority for you to build these incredible relationships with your clientele.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we get to know them on such a personal level and we get that connection and getting to understand their lifestyle and understanding who they are. I think it just kind of reflects in me and then the business of, okay, we actually get along not just professionally, but personally too. And just being our authentic self, they see that and they're like, oh, hey, not only do I trust you with my home, but like, I think you're really freaking cool and I want to hang out with you. And so it's like they get to know us on so many different levels as we get to know them. And we have so much in common besides just the business side of things. And so I think intertwining that, professionalism and friendship is kind of the key to succeeding in such a beautiful design.
No, I love that you share that. I think, what's really tricky about our business is these are really long-term relationships, right? There's a lot of time invested in pre-con and, then during the builds. And for you as a designer, you're heavy face time for the first year, 2 years of design. Construction's happening. And yes, you're still involved to some extent, but a lot of it, your design book's running, you have some scheduled meetings, there's, updates and stuff. But then it's heavy at the end as you get into furniture and, furnishing and getting them moved in. And so, of course, having a great relationship is going to help, that entire
we're with them for such a long time,
such a long time. But again, what's unique about you is you do get to know them personally. You're really investigating how they live, how they operate, and you're designing around that. But I think it's pretty rare for me to see, designers travel with their clients well after construction, which means you're doing something right.
That particular client, I've been with them for, since 2013, and I've designed 4 homes for them. So not only have they became obviously almost like family to me. It's like you build that, and that's kind of like what Emmy Couture is about. We are a boutique design firm that we are very family orientated, and I think that just shows in our designs, and it shows within kind of the firm I run, the girls I have on my team, and it's just that relationship and the trust.
It's incredible. Well, you're celebrating 10 years. So,
I know, I
that
can't
says
believe
lots.
it. Oh my gosh, so crazy. I
Yeah, it's
started
wild. I mean,
Emmy Couture in 2016, and this is our 10-year. We're going to have a big 10-year party, so stay tuned. We'll have more information on that. But it's just a big achievement. They really say after 10 years, like you are established, and I truly feel that. I feel like, I started at 26. I was young. I didn't really know anything about business. And, I came from two really great reputable design firms here in North Scottsdale. One was really focused on interiors and architecture. And then the next one was more focused on the design build side of things. So I think what I do bring into the industry is the best of both worlds. I understand the architecture side, I understand the build side, and then having that design side. Obviously, my bubbly personality, getting to know the clients and everything, having all that together and implementing the design has really made us different in the industry and being so successful.
you know, it's really important, at least for me. I had experience too before starting my company. What do you value most? The one thing with that is the caveat I would say is that when you start a business, no matter what experience you've had, you're not involved in all the operations, right? All the cash flow and payroll. And, there's different elements of the company you may touch. But when you go on your own, it's kind of like this shell shock of like so many different things thrown at you. But
Talk
outside
about
of that,
wearing all the hats. You have to wear all the
yeah,
hats, Brad.
yeah, everything. I mean, buck stops at you, right?
Yeah.
What are some things that you did lean on, experience wise early in your career that really helped you catapult moving forward?
I think what I leaned on a lot was I'm so thankful for my past experiences at those two design firms because, especially the last one, it really taught me more of the business side of things. I never took a business class before. So when I came to my husband and I was like, I want to leave my job and I want to open up my own design firm, he has always been so supportive. But obviously that came with like, okay, well, how do I run things? How do I charge? How do I keep track? Because of my experiences, I was the all in one. We had to do our drawings. We had to run kind of like be a foreman. We had to do all the procurement. So, learning how to invoice and all of that, I had that experience. And so that's why I did felt so comfortable being able to step outside and take that leap of faith to making the big decision.
Which is incredible. It's starting from scratch though. What are some things maybe you didn't really realize that you would encounter or have to, figure out on a whim?
I think being able to not have anybody to bounce ideas off and having that support because I was all alone, and when you come from a firm or a team, you have people that you can kind of go to and bounce off ideas from, and just having me by myself, it just kind of felt a little isolated at times. And, having my husband not having like a business background either, we're like, okay, it's kind of like trial and error. Do we operate off QuickBooks? Do we get a different kind of
Mhm,
system? Like, what
mhm.
process do we actually do? And I think throughout the years, it's changed and we've developed so many more process and procedures now. And so now it comes more naturally because we have been through a lot of a lot of trial and error.
It's funny because I mean, you mentioned that you were in design school. I did construction management in college, and they taught me zero about business. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I think I took one like construction law class, just like a
Curriculum.
legal like brief, um, a lot of engineering and stuff, and some of the technical side, but zero marketing,
Yeah.
zero business, which is like a huge component of what we do on a daily basis.
Oh yeah. That's huge. And it's crazy how like they don't teach that. And I think, nowadays they should have like a requirement of just having a couple business classes just to learn off of, you know?
Yeah, it's funny how the one thing I remember, but before I declared to be construction management, maybe some people laugh at this, but I was actually going to go into business. Like I was going to go into business school, and that was kind of the plan is to eventually get an MBA in business. And I remember taking my first general accounting class, and I still remember this. You're trying to memorize all these terms, like what are
Uh-huh.
accounts payable, accounts receivable, and that's fine. I picked that up fairly quick, and then like retained earnings was something that always got me. And the reason I bring that up is because now you run a business and you're
Hmm.
involved in the financials and all these things. I mean, this is like second nature now, and I definitely know what retained earnings are, right? And so it's funny how these terms become tough in college, but at the same time, once you're living in real life, practicing, and I just wish at that time I would have had a better understanding of the career priorities, because I didn't take any marketing, and that's a huge component of what we both do today as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, marketing has changed. Look at the 10 years,
Hmm.
Instagram was just starting out 10 years ago, and look at where it is now from a business standpoint. Like, that's your portfolio. Like, that's what people go to first when they hear a name. They want to look you up. They want to see who else is following you. They want to see, your latest updates, because yes, our website is beautiful, but it's not always currently up to date, because when we're going through projects, we're doing that kind of live on stories and showing you what we're actually doing now, versus our website is like all the pretty finished projects, which is still great, but it's not like, the day in the life of.
How's that happen? How have you built a brand? Because there is a difference between just marketing strategies and then actually becoming a brand, which you've been able to do.
I mean, I do think it started back in 2022. I hired a business coach to kind of help out with the business. That's when I kind of saw my business kind of skyrocketing and taking off. And I was like, okay, I want to have Emmy Couture be a brand. So we did a whole new rebranding. We revamped our website. And that's when I really looked into marketing and was like, okay, what can we do from a marketing standpoint to always keep us on brand? Obviously, Instagram is always changing and everything, but being able to have your face out there, having
Mhm.
that personal connection, that's like what people want to see. They don't want to see just a picture that's not no talking. Yes, pictures are beautiful, but you need just more than that nowadays. I believe people are literally trusting you with their lives, and they want to make sure that you represent what they are about too. You want to kind of have that same connection.
No, I love that you shared that, because it's tough. Even though there's so much truth to your statement about the emotional connection side, the
Yeah.
personal side, people relate to you. That's why they want to hire you. I mean, these are very expensive journeys that these clients are going on. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of risk, and so there's something to be said about that personality side. But it's hard. It's hard for some people to get out of the comfort zone. It's hard for some people to be.
Hmm.
I know even people may not believe it, but when I first started, like it was hard for me to be on camera. You're very self conscious of your voice and how you operate and stuff. Now it's a lot more comfortable because I'm used to it. How did you take that plunge to be comfortable? Because a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not you, Emmy. I'm not you, Brad. Like I'm not comfortable in front of the camera." But it's hard to take that first leap.
I think we are always our own worst critics. And I remember starting out on Instagram, I was so nervous I was going to say something and mess it up, and then you delete it and then you try saying it over. And you know what? That's not what it's about. Like, you mess up, that's fine. People want to see like that authentic self, and you want to say a word and you say something wrong or you stumble on your words. They want to see that because you're real. You're not just recorded. And I would say a good advice is just get out there and do it. Don't play it back. Don't be your own critic. Be your authentic self and just record it, send it, post it.
How has your team helped kind of build that confidence? I know Victoria and you are, very involved. You have a credible team. How have they given you confidence just now that you can stand in front of high net worth clients? You can stand in front of architects and builders and really, understand that space.
Yeah. I've created a great team here. And I think the girls kind of reflect what I'm about. And, I have such a personal connection with each of them, and they all are great in all of their areas. We are a team of six and we are growing. And I think that, everyone has their own special talents that they bring to the table. And the way that they support me and the business just means so much to me. They're always my biggest cheerleaders. Couldn't do it without them. So
It's hard though because hiring is tough.
it
Company
is.
culture is tough. Training's tough. Keeping team members happy. What any keys to success that you've seen in that hiring process?
Yeah, I would say once I started Emmy Couture, I was like, okay, I want something different. I had the two past experiences and I didn't find a design firm out there that kind of had everything that I was personally looking for, And so being able to create something that, cares about the team. I ask them, how was your weekend? Every Monday meeting that we have, showing that you care about them. We spend most of our time here than we do at our own house and our own family. So when I say like, this is our couture family, you
Mhm.
are a part of our couture family. And that's like what Emmy Couture is kind of about, is being family operated. My husband works for me. My mom works for me. She's our procurement manager. Todd runs the office and he runs the back end of things. And so when you get to know us, it really is a family run business and a family that we have created.
You know, I think that's pretty unique. I've met your mom at some of the networking events. And so I think that's a pretty cool story to be able to have your parent work for you. I mean, that's a pretty high achievement. I mean, of course, you and your husband work together. And so there's that dynamic of balancing, personal life, work life, and, those different aspects. How
Everyone
has that
loves
been?
Mama Couture.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Once
how's it
you
been
meet her,
working
and
with
then you're
mom?
like, oh, yes, that's Emmy's mom.
So, how has that been bringing her in and integrating and, having that mother-daughter relationship at work?
Yeah, she's been with me for 2.5 years now. So she used to work from Safeway Corporate doing their accounts payable and money. So once she retired, I was like, well, mom, do you want to come and do my procurement? And, she said, yes, of course, I would love to. And that has just blossomed her in so many different areas of her life. And, now she gets to travel with me on like business things and she gets to celebrate like all the different awards at the award events. And it's so humbling just to be able to have that by my side too.
So for those that maybe we do have a lot of designers that listen, which would understand that,
Yes.
the procurement side, for those listening to understand what that role is, the complication of, the furnishing and FF&E that goes in at
Oh,
the end of a
yeah.
project, what does that take from, trying to line budgets and design and integrate it with all the finishes and then at the same time purchase and store and track and then warranties and stuff arriving damaged, but you're on this tight timeline and,
It is a lot, you guys.
yeah, you may order a bed that'll get here in 4 weeks and one that's 6 months. And so you're trying to, order things at the appropriate time and make sure you don't lose that, but then store it, and not add too much cost to the client. I mean, it's a big balancing act.
Yeah, no. And Rhonda does it great. We have so many different clients and so many different orders going on that she not only invoices, does the ordering, deals with all the damages if items come in damages, do all the replacements, set up all the deliveries. If something does come back ordered, she's getting the notifications. She's sending it out to the team. Hey guys, this item just got back ordered. If this doesn't hit your deadline, please let me know and we will need to reselect. And then we'll have to let the client know that, hey, this item will probably need to reselect because it's not going to hit our target move-in date timeline. So it's really crucial part of the business side of things.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, how hard is it to have, to work with your clients just to understand that budget, set that expectation, and hopefully the builder hasn't killed them on the other side going over budget, so they don't come back to you and have to redesign the furniture aspect.
Yeah, great question. So I've developed this furniture investment guide. And what that is a couple pages that shows you what you could potentially be spending on your furniture package. And so we have the elite and then we have premium. And so the elite is going to be more of the higher level vendors that I can choose from. The premium is going to be, a middle grade vendor that we can choose from. And what I like to do in the very beginning of meeting every client when we do their furnishings is look over this furniture investment guide. Let me know, obviously, your overall investment. I like using the word investment, not
Mhm.
budget. So
Yes.
that's always key too. Oops, malfunction. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
And so what that does is it really allows me and my team to be able to focus on, okay, this is their investment for this space. Let's look at this vendor, and this vendor, because we have so many different wholesale accounts that we can pull from. And that just allows us to really put together that furniture package for them and then deliver it and say, okay, this is what we spent time on. We've done like our research, we've space planned everything, and this is what we think would be best for your space.
When you're looking at those two packages, you mentioned lead and premium, and I love that you're calling it investment because it is. I mean, you know, here's the reality: is I've said this many times: is you know, it is a luxury service, right? To have a custom home,
Yes.
it's a luxury service to have an interior designer. Um, as you're investing in those things, you know, at some point, which I really appreciate about our clients, they value the professionals that work with them on these projects and the thought and the one off and the one of a kind. And, and there's inspiration for them as they, enjoy, make memories with their family and bring clients in. And of course, there's levels of the spectrum of what people are willing to spend on everything. And you and I deal with that. How do you present pricing that makes sense, maybe doesn't scare them off? Is this like a square foot? Is this by room? How are you packaging that, to give a pretty good view for the client of what that investment would look like?
Yeah. Obviously, since our fields can be so ranged, we specialize in
Mhm.
luxury new construction, full home renovations, and furnishings. Sometimes we'll just have a client that comes to us is like, hey, I just bought this brand new house, we just moved here from California, I need the whole house furnished and all new lighting. So obviously that price per square foot would be different than what we
Mhm.
would price for a new construction with a furniture package. So it all is per square foot, basically. If they do come with, say, hey, I have this house and I want this room, this room furnished, I have the others taken care of, then that's kind of like a la carte, and we price that differently as well.
Yeah, and what's challenging, there's actually a lot of elements you have to deal with because, you can think about the normal hard goods, call it, your dining tables and sofas and beds and stuff. But, you also have window covering and drapery and,
Oh yeah.
the accessories on each and every shelf, which you do a great job sourcing that. And so, how do you work through those expectations to say, hey, like, I don't think people realize how much drapery could cost if you're doing custom window coverings throughout the house.
Yeah, I mean, look at your floor plan. Look at how many windows the house has. And think about, okay, now I want all the bedrooms to have blackout. You
Yeah.
have to have and they want them to be operable. Obviously, operable drapery is going to cost you more than a stationary panel because it's more fabric. So it's twice as much fabric, labor, and everything. So that's a great point that you bring up because it does kind of fall off when people come to us. They're like, well, I didn't know that I was going to have this window drapery budget. And I was like, well, you have a lot of windows in the house, you know. Same with the accessories. I say you can do a house full of furniture, but the accessories are what the personal touches
Hmm.
make for each space. And that we curate all the accessories, and it is a staging process. We come in, we bring everything, and then we walk the client through the big reveal day. And accessories aren't technically something that you can show into like a presentation that, okay, I'm going to have a stack of books and I'm going to place it like this. You can't do that. You can only do it when you see it in the space. And so that is what my team brings in all the accessories. We kind of we come through and we stage and move everything. And then the client will approve because accessories take a big chunk as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's, having worked with designers on pretty much every project for the last, 7 years, I think that's an element that most people don't realize, even the clients, right? Because overall, you're just trying to give them overall budget, and now you're trying to source, which is a lot. I mean, depending on the style of the home, if you're integrating antiques or family heirlooms, or the clients travel. As we had a mutual client that I mentioned you went to Paris with, and you integrated some incredibly personal details, but still made it work
Yep.
with their overall design, and that takes not just a lot of coordination, but a lot of creativity and insight and forward thinking.
Yeah. I mean, that particular client, the art collection is beautiful, and art is so personal to everybody and it can speak to them so differently. It may not actually aesthetically fit the design that I was hoping for. But
Right.
in the room, we can reframe it to fit the theme of the space, you know? And so that's kind of what we did with their art collection, where we were able to reframe things to kind of fit into our aesthetics better. Even though the art speaks a little bit differently, it's kind of the offsetting of the space. And I think that's kind of what made it very cohesive also, is it's not like a thorn in the room, you know, or thorn on the wall. It looks beautiful because it's beautifully done.
Yeah, and that, it's tough to do. And I will say with that client specifically, even their closet was incredible. I think I could just sit in their closet, with how you designed that.
I mean, that's everybody's dream closet right there.
There were some fun pieces. Going back to the culture side, you mentioned, you had experience, how things, and this is no blemish on the companies you work for. I think one of the benefits for me too in my career, working for a different company is, in that role, you have the employee hat on. So you
Mhm.
understand what was a priority for you as an
Yeah.
employee, and, things that were important to you, whether it was financial or whether it was, benefit packages or culture, all these different elements. And it's kind of like, the analogy of, you grow up with your parents and you're like, well, when I become a parent, there are things I really liked about that. And there's things maybe I
Yeah.
would change, right, with my kids. And so, how did that make an impact just as you're, setting the tone as a business owner now, again, to attract the type of people that really represent you in the way you want?
Hmm. I mean, great question. I think that I wasn't happy in the spaces I was in before. It was just a lot of high stress, high anxiety. And so being able to not have that into the office space, being able to have those open conversations with your employees, like, how can I better help you? If you do feel like they have that high pressure or high anxiety on them, having those open conversations has really helped us with succeeding. We have, with every new client, we do timelines, and I sit down the girls, like whatever designer I help bring on to assist in the project. I sit down and we go over it together and we look at it realistically and we say, like, okay, this is when we're starting the project. When can we schedule out the next phase, the next phase, and the next phase? That way we hand that to our client and they know what the expectations are. They know, okay, the week of this, we are going to expect our hard finish material presentation. And just being able to look at each schedule differently instead of just demanding, saying, I need this by this day, this by this day. And if those targets aren't hit, that's not being realistic. And that's not just fair to our client, but it's not fair to also the business.
No, I love that. I mean, it's so true. The timelines, expectations. I mean, setting clear expectations really protects you too in your relationship with the client. It protects you in relationship with your team and protects them,
Yeah.
from projects getting out of control.
Yeah, exactly. So,
How, yeah,
sorry.
and oh no, you mentioned that there were some high stress, high anxiety things. What were those? What do you feel led to the high stress? Was it unrealistic timelines or budgets? I mean, what was putting you in that position where you felt that stressed and now you've tried to make that change for your team?
So I was running at that time 12 luxury new builds by myself. 12 by myself. Not only,
Yeah.
Brad, was I doing all the CAD work. So I was only trained in AutoCAD, not SketchUp. So I was doing all the AutoCAD drawings. I had to then create all the furniture packages. I had to then also do all the invoicing. So for 12 of those projects. And like I said, I'm thankful for everything that like I had been through, but it was hard. It was not easy. I remember coming home to my husband almost every night and just crying and just like being miserable because I was so stressed. I remember one of the turning points is my body being so stressed was when Todd and I had made the decision, like, we want to start a family. We want to try and get pregnant. And I was trying for like 6 months and I could not get pregnant because I was under so much stress. So, ironically, the last straw, I came home and I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to open up my own business. 3 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant with our first child. So talk about high stress now on a different level because
Yeah.
I just found out I was pregnant. I quit my 9 to 5 job and was now going out on my own. So crazy, right? So it's a different type of stress that on that level. But, all together, I wanted to run a business differently without that, having that stress on everybody. That's why we created different roles in the business. That's why I have a separate procurement manager now. That's
Hmm.
why Rhonda handles all of that. That's why Todd has his position. That's why Victoria has her position, and my other two girls. That is why we have different roles. Now, I'm still involved in every single aspect of it. I
Yeah.
get this question almost daily after we meet with new clients. They're like, but I want you, Emmy. And I said, you do get me. You get me. Trust me. I
Hmm.
might have my hand on every single project. Okay. But what I've done is I've created a team. I've trained their eye to my standards, and I have them help assist on every project because I am one person. Brad, you can't be Superman. I mean, you try
Hmm.
to be, but it takes a team. Look at your
Hmm.
village. I have my village, and I've poured that investment into my village, and being able to have them and have that confidence and letting our clients know, like, you do get me 24/7, all the email correspondence. That will be one of the assistants that is helping on the project so that we can just better align and making sure that we're meeting those timelines and getting all the emails. And you know how many emails go back and forth.
Hmm.
So,
It's so true because really, I mean, this was kind of an earlier question for you about building a brand. Building a brand, of course, you're the face of that brand, Emmy. I mean, that's you front and center. But at the same time, like you have a team and a reputation that's built that for a reason. And I think what's tricky about design and even construction to some extent, yeah, the client's like, I want you, Emmy. But at the same time, the analogy that I give, are you running a table at the restaurant? Or are you renting out the restaurant? Are you renting, essentially two movie seats? Or are you renting out the theater? Yeah, if you want me 100% exclusively, well, that's a different operation, right? There's a different
yeah.
cost involved. There's different timing. But, the benefit is, think of a anyone's been to a really high class steakhouse. You may have your main server, but there's 5 or 6 other people coming in and checking. You're not waiting for drinks, and you're not waiting for your table to be cleared and new silverware. I mean, they have a good operation, right? It's not just the one. And so you can still have, an operation there that runs efficiently. And that really comes down to you, how you train and you instill that in your team and your
Yeah.
company, and, and deliver that expectation to the client so that they don't feel, hey, Emmy wasn't on every email, but at the same time, I'm still getting the service and the brand that, I was hoping to get, that I'm paying for.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how do you integrate fashion into your design?
Well, I mean, it's just the couture way that we do things.
The couture way.
No, obviously, I've always had an eye for fashion at a very young age. And I just believe that, you know, fashion is very similar to interiors and layering, whether it is adding accessories to the space, like I said, accessories make it. You could have on a great dress, but if you don't have the necklace, the earrings, the type of hair, it ain't all coming together. And so that's exactly how we like the houses. We have to have layers and blankets and pillows and all the accessories that make it come together as one whole.
No, I love that. But as you think about, fashion and luxury, and, you're definitely delivering on that. I mean, anyone that sees your designs, and we have an incredible one that's going to be upcoming that I think people are just
I
going to be
mean,
blown
as
away.
the art behind me, it says life is Gucci.
Life is Gucci. Well, what's funny about that, and I love that art piece, by the way. How,
Thank
how do
you.
you how do you make it livable? Because sometimes people associate luxury with, I can't touch it, I can't sit on it, it's not comfortable, but it looks great. Maybe some clothes you wear are that way. How are you delivering, a luxury feel, but still making it livable for the client?
Yeah. Say the client have a bunch of kids. Obviously, we're going to use more performance fabrics. Maybe in some of the areas that aren't as high traffic, we could add a splurge in the space of something like maybe your primary bedroom. The kids aren't going to be in as much, and we
Hmm.
can add that Hermes blanket in there. You know, um, or if they are like an empty nester. and we have free range, but they entertain a lot and they are red wine drinkers. We still want to make sure that we have those performance fabrics and that we are ensuring that everything that is selected is going to last. We also have a great local micro seal company that comes in and he will micro seal area rugs, any kind of upholstery that we want. But it's huge, especially for area rugs, because with everyone's pets these days, if they, piddle on the rug, that's an issue and it ruins the
Mhm.
rug. And rugs are a very big investment piece. And we always love to start the room with the area rug. We like to size it and then it kind of sets the tone of each space. And so being able to have those treated or just have our local cleaning service come pick it up, take it for a couple days, and being able to clean that for them. It's just that the extra level of care that we put into our furnishings and our products and our design.
See, it's so important. I mean, you think about, you know how practical this is for a client because as the builder, I really appreciate great designers that are thinking about that end user. And the reason being is you have two elements. You're speaking about the furnishings, right? Which is a huge part, the fabrics you're choosing and, the rugs and how that's going to perform in these traffic areas. For me too, it's going to be, the cabinetry and the countertops and the flooring. And, you know, these are things that, yes, beautify the house, but at the same time can be callbacks for me.
Yeah.
If countertops are being stained, no matter the work we put through to seal them, and how the client's using those day to day, how has that education evolved for you to understand the products you're putting in? I mean, there's a lot of product knowledge and experience and learning
Mhm.
that you have to go through to just know what the client's needs, how they're going to operate, and again, how you're specifying these two different elements of finishes as well as furnishings.
Yeah, we actually had a great example just happen. So we did a large kitchen remodel, and one of the countertops that we had spec'd was a quartzite that is honed. And it's not a material that I've never used before because I had used it, but just not in the honed. When
Hmm.
we purchased it from the gallery, we said, this is going to the kitchen. What's our care and maintenance? They told us, and everything was fine. So, long story short, we installed the countertops, and this couple cooks a lot in the kitchen. Well, the countertops were getting stained, and we would send out our fabricator. He would try and do some of the stuff to pull out the stains. We even hired a local stone company, sealant company, because the countertops were sealed. So it's kind of really important to know that too. So as you're doing honed countertops, you still have to seal them. And the process is still basically the same as if it was polished. But for some reason, we got a bad batch of stone.
Oh
And
no.
we had to, I'm not me, the contractor had to replace, and it wasn't on him, it was actually on the stone yard. So, they had to eat that cost and they had to replace the whole entire kitchen because we were trying everything and nothing was pulling out. It was just kept getting stained and making it worse. So we had to do a whole new batch. We ended up doing a leathered of that stone, and
Hmm.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
To your point, not only do sometimes you get the bad luck of a bad batch, but we
Things
we had
happen.
things happen, and you
It's
know
out
what?
of our control.
Yeah, and this is where, I mean, you mentioned how important it is to have a network, right? Like you have a network of someone that's going to come in and seal the furniture, right? And,
Mhm.
put that sealer on it so then that way it's going to protect and be more durable. What I appreciate about a lot of our trade partners, we had a spec from a designer. It was a beautiful stone, one of the most beautiful slabs ever. And even the distributors like, oh, it's great. This is gonna be perfect. And our fabricator's like, I'm just telling you, like in a high traffic area like the kitchen, this is not a good selection. No matter what we do,
Yeah.
and you appreciate that feedback. And of course,
A
the client's a little
100%.
disheartened that, we got to make
Mhm.
a change, but we were able to find something like, but it's one of those things I'd rather deliver bad news now than you living in your home. And now I'm coming in and to your point, taking out the countertops because anyone that's removed countertops, that's not a clean, doesn't just pop right off.
No, it affects your backsplash, it affects your
Yes.
cabinet, so it's like
Yeah.
a little domino effect of it.
Yeah, that's the hard part about what we do is, you're trying to forward think. I know something, since we're on countertops, where I value design is you kind of learn these mistakes, right? In the past, my fabricator would, come up with where the seams should be based on waist, like, yeah. So anyone that's not
That
watching,
look says
Emmy,
it all.
yeah, anyone
Seams.
that's not watching and
Uh,
only doing the audio, Emmy gave me this like horrified look. But here's why it's valuable to have a good designer that's actually going to help you with your SOPs is, the fabricator is always going to, I don't want to say what's most easy for them, but is most practical based on waste in the slab, and they're going to put seams.
mhm.
But something like that, the designer has to really be involved and educated and be
Yeah,
like, hey, no, like I need to sign off on the seams. This is where I want them. This is where I don't, especially when you have movement in the slabs. But
very
sometimes
important.
you don't want it in one of the key areas that's going to be a focal point in the kitchen, no matter how much you try to hide it.
No, definitely not. That's one of the biggest pet peeves that I have. And I think, with the technology that we do have nowadays, the
Hmm.
fabricators are great with it. And they show us the exact slab and the
Hmm.
cutouts and everything. And so it's really fantastic with what technology can do now.
How do you
But
set those expectations with builders? I mean, countertops is one of a thousand. How are there? How do you set that up? Whether certain vendors you're working with, or the builders working with, or times that you want to still be involved when the build goes vertical.
Yeah. So when it comes to slab selection, obviously we'll go out to the slab yard once, the builder gives us the okay, like, hey, it's time to pick out the slabs. Obviously, when it comes to natural stone, we like to hand select them. When it comes to a quartz or a porcelain, that can always be just spec'd. But the natural
Hmm.
stone, we like to hand pick. So when we go and hand pick, say you're like, Emmy, you need 8 slabs for this kitchen. Well, I want all 8 slabs laid out. And I need 2 slabs, say, for the island. I will label slab 44 and 45 to be the island and then everything else to be the perimeter because I like the veining that slab 45 and slab
Hmm.
44 has. And that way I'm just very particular of that's the look that we want for that space.
Yeah, which I love that you do that because any direction we have from and what I really love about how you operate, Emmy, and some of the great designers you work with is not only that sophistication and education, like, hey, this slab goes here, and it really points us in a good direction. Sometimes we have product that's specified from a manufacturer we haven't worked with, and
Yeah.
you're great about, here's my rep. I've already met with them. Here's, we vetted this, it's gone through. So it makes it easy for my estimating team to contact them. And it's not just like, hey, here's a spec, and go figure it out and who's going to supply it. Like, you've done a lot of due diligence, which, it takes a lot of time to source and build that network.
Yeah, and since I've been in the industry, since 2013, I have built great relationships with all the different vendors, and I know a lot of connection, a lot of people, just like you,
Hmm.
Brad. But with that being said, is everyone has their own specialty, and if you may not know, we have this client that wants a stained glass, design, and you're like, Emmy, I've never done stained glass. Like, what do I do? I've actually done stained glass. I know the perfect artist to bring in to the team that we can have do the stained glass windows for that project.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so important. How, of course, your experience as a designer has involved for you and your team, your presence, your relationships, as you mentioned. How have the projects evolved?
Okay, so projects have evolved from starting out just doing one kitchen here and there to being able to design not just in Arizona. We actually have 3 new builds in Dallas Fort Worth right now.
It's
I've
incredible.
designed in California in Newport Beach. I did, the project for the client that we were talking about earlier with the art collection. I did their whole Florida home for them. I've done a house in Chicago. And so, not only being able to expand in Arizona, but expanding outside of things. And I think the biggest thing has just been word of mouth and referrals. Everyone's like, Emmy, how did you market yourself? And it's like, I
Hmm.
didn't technically start out marketing. When you're starting out, you don't have a marketing budget. So
Hmm.
you can't invest in that. You can't invest in the magazines and all the things yet. You want to invest in what you can, and that is your reputation, and you want to have the referrals. The referrals is what got me, and still, like, the best advertisement is referrals because one person will go to somebody's house and they'll see, oh, I love this. Who was your designer? Who was your design team? Who was your contractor? And then that opens the conversation to, oh, hey, I use this person, and they check you out. And if you know that those 2 people are friends, most likely they have the same vibes and the same kind
Hmm.
of feeling that you're going to have another successful project, because people aren't going to be acquaintances with someone that they don't love, or they're not going to refer
Hmm.
you, or so I think just being able to look at that, and then also with the social media that we are talking about, get on social media, be active, and then once you can kind of reach that benchmark, then you can invest in all the different advertising. Like, yes, we are in magazines now. I started investing in marketing a few years ago, and we're recognized, and we just got our first Lux publication in
Hmm.
January. That's the
That's
house that
neat.
we're on, Brad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
So kind of a big deal. Just got published in January. And the next couple months, you'll be seeing a few more exciting things I can't really talk about yet. But we're really excited and really thankful. And I think, our interiors just reflect that. And now being able to have all these opportunities with the magazines picking up on all of our projects, and being able to see that and different opportunities that we have.
What was your tipping point, do you feel, when you felt like, okay, I'm not just doing a kitchen remodel, and I'm traveling all over the country and world doing these amazing projects?
The tipping point.
Yeah, was there a project that you feel put you on the map, or a client? Maybe it was even the scope. It could be a client that, to your point, you said you've had these amazing referrals. And so,
Yeah.
the reality is a lot of our clients, they network, they spend time together. They're kind of in
Hmm.
the same net worth pool, if you will, and they hang out with people that, are in the same stage of life. And so, yeah, as you get in with one, it kind of opens doors to others. But what do you feel like when you really saw Emmy Couture really start to make a turn?
I feel like once we started getting a little bit higher profile clientele, then that's kind of what kind of pushed us to the next level of luxury. And I also believe that COVID kind of helped that, because it really helped us define our process and procedures. We were able to slow down as I was just starting out in 2016. Then COVID hit. Like, oh no, am I going to survive? Because I'm brand new to the business by myself, and I'm not that huge design firm that everybody's going to. And being able to kind of define my process and procedures and really hone in on that, and being able to expand and say, like, okay, this is what we're going to do moving forward at coming up to any other project. And I think that when people do hire us and they do see our process and procedures, they're like, oh, she got her shit together. Like, and so it took time. And that time is so valuable. And I'm so thankful for what COVID taught us.
Yeah, there's so much with COVID. I mean, it's funny how that, COVID made a lot of us busier probably than otherwise would have. But more importantly, it really challenged us. I know from my perspective, I think COVID really showed, I don't want to say exploited, but it really showed probably where there were some, loose ends from estimating and bidding and pre-con. And,
Totally.
you mentioned how your mom's involved in the procurement side. I have to do the same thing, right? Keep in mind, some of my projects are 2 years. And so it may be a year before I do cabinetry and countertops and flooring, plumbing fixtures. And so, the last thing we need are pricing escalating, and there's risk taking the product early. And so it's really balancing, some of those orders and procurement, so that way the product's here when I need it. It's not on back order. And at the same time, I'm not going back to you, Emmy, or the client and be like, hey, I know we bid, this for your tile, but now it's
Now we
2x.
have to reselect, or yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. Discontinued. We had to deal with all of that. And we still
Yeah.
do sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes you do. And, I found that on occasion we miss stuff. Like it happens as part of being the build. And, but I've realized, instead of going to Emmy and being like, hey, you picked this, this tile that's not existent. Hey, we actually effed up. Like, we totally made a mistake. And we found that, the designers are like, when we go at them and say we messed up, they're like, oh yeah, we'll help you figure it out. Let's find a solution there, as opposed to like pointing the finger.
Yeah, no, like, we are a team, and we're here to exceed for our client. We have one person in common, and that is our client. And we
Hmm.
want them to be happy. We want, the build and the design and the architecture to all correspond. We don't want any hiccups on the field. We try to minimize all of that. And just being able to have that connection with the A team, the architect and the builder, is really important, because not only do we want all of us to thrive, but we want our client to have the best experience and to have the amazing project that they can live the rest of their life in.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. What does legacy mean to you?
Legacy. Legacy. I always think of legacy as like, what are you going to leave? Like when, you know, you're done or something. That's kind of like
Hmm.
what I think of it as. Um, I just want to be, I guess my legacy for Emmy Couture would be being known for being authentic, creative, and being there for people because I think that shows a lot. That clients can come to us no matter what, and we will be there for you, kind of thing. They can pick up the phone and call me, and being able to help them through things. You know, we are designers, but again, we do develop some personal friendships also along the way.
Hmm. No, it is. And, we started the conversation that way, that really, I think part of your legacy is that ability to build a relationship far beyond the
Yeah.
professional side, and build a repeat client and travel with them. I mean, that says a lot just about your process and character and who you are. As we close this out, Emmy, I know you're active on social media. How has that played a role?
Social media has evolved, and I think we try our best. I'm not on there live every day, but we like to also be a little bit different. We like to post something fun and then also something professional because again, I want you guys to see my team and my personality, because I don't want you to just hire me based off of a pretty picture. I want you to understand the process and the people behind it that make it come to life. And that comes back to adding that personal touch to it. But social media, I mean, follow us on Emmy Couture Designs and you'll see what I mean.
Yep, that's a good plug there because it is true. I mean, you do some incredible stuff there. Again, and some of it's with us, some, with other builders. We know we have some amazing projects upcoming. So, what do you do for
I
fun?
do. I have two kids. So we have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so they keep us busy. I mean, as you know, Brad, the kids' schedule is just as busy as our schedule. So
Right.
being able to just balance it all is a superhero. But I would say just being able to spend time with the kids and all their activities. Ellie's in competitive cheer. My son, Gage,
Fun.
he is in baseball and karate. So just all the things.
I know you think you have a busy day at work and then you go home and you're like, okay, now we got to double down.
Oh, yeah,
It's a lot.
exactly.
Um, what's the best advice you've ever been given?
Okay, so I was in college, and I remember it was a couple days before year end. One of my teachers was handing out little Post-it cards, and I'm gonna get emotional. And one that she'd given it out to everybody in the class. What mine had said was, "Stay true to your big heart," and for some reason that has always stuck with me. And
Mhm.
she gave me a heart-shaped rock, and I still have it to this day as well. And that was just one of the biggest impacts from me. It wasn't even a design teacher, it was like an English class.
Hmm.
And I hate English.
It's because English is the worst language out there, but go
Oh my
ahead.
gosh, yes. And so I think that would be it.
That's really neat. And you can only tell, I mean, from the emotion side, how that made an impact. And, you can see how, these little, mementos and, design elements you're putting in, how that makes a client feel too. And that's that connection, right? And that's why we do what we
Yeah.
do. And again, your English comment's funny because I hated English too. And, I've been fortunate to learn, I speak fluent Spanish and,
Oh my gosh,
learning
I didn't
another,
know that.
yeah, yeah. So like learning another language, you realize how bad English is, to be honest. I feel bad that anyone that has to
Yeah.
learn English, I'm like, I just feel bad for you because it makes zero sense. At least in
Mhm.
other languages, there's rules and you can figure it out and it's pretty consistent, but we're kind of backwards for some reason. So
No rules.
no rules. Well, Emmy, you've been incredible. Appreciate the advice and, conversation. Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. You can go to our website at www.emmycouturedesigns.com, or you can go on to our Instagram handle at Emmy Couture Designs as well.
Well, thank you, Emmy. Appreciate it.